Let's talk a little bit about some of the uses of annotations. I find it pretty useful to understand how annotations are used in order to really understand this concept. Because until you know how this is going to be used, it doesn't really make sense. Why do we have this in Java? Why am I using this? I don't really understand something until I can see how it's practically applied. So the first usage of annotation that we're going to discuss is the compiler itself. Compilers frequently use annotations to do a lot of things in Java that help it to compile your code correctly or to treat certain code that's being compiled in a certain way. There's two good examples I'm going to give you here, and we're going to look at some more as we get into the code and see some of the usages of annotations. But one example is the suppress warnings that we had seen before. We can use this suppress warnings annotation to suppress some compiler warning that we would normally get. So let's say that we do something where we have some code that is not using generic, and we're assigning it to some code that is using generics. This would generate a compiler warning a lot of times, so we could use the suppress warnings annotation to prevent that warning from happening. In our example code, we had said suppress warnings deprecation, and deprecation is actually a annotation we can apply to some code, and it will cause the compiler to give us a warning when that code is used. We could suppress that warning with another annotation. We can also use an annotation to say that a method needs to be overridden. And when we use that annotation, we're giving the compiler a hint so that it will actually cause an error and not compile our code if it's actually not overriding something, but we've specified that we think this is overriding through the use of an annotation. So a compiler can use annotations to help compile the code, to help do things with warnings or errors, and to enforce some kind of contract about that code. It's a way to make your code a little bit more safe because you can enforce contracts before the code is running. So just like having a statically typed language allows you some benefit because the compiler can catch errors, you can use annotations to give the compiler some additional information about the code so it could catch even more errors or possible error conditions.